Good afternoon, everyone. This is Atmospheric Alex here, and welcome back to another severe weather outlook and discussion video slash heat wave discussion video, because we're going to be going over the crazy heat wave that will continue across much of the nation for the next few days, and also our severe weather chances as well. And bringing us to those chances is our Storm Prediction Center's convective outlook here for today. We do have an enhanced risk for severe weather up for portions of Nebraska, Iowa, up in those areas there, and a slight risk for all other areas in between, including Chicago there. You could be talking about some severe weather later on this afternoon and this evening. As we take a look at our tornado threat, we really don't have much to talk about, just kind of a small 2% risk out here. Yeah, I definitely don't think tornadoes will be our main risk going into today. Our wind risk definitely looks a little bit more significant there. Gusts potentially upwards of 75 to 85 miles an hour, possible in that shaded, or in that hatched area right within there, I should say. And then for our hail risk, pretty much the same ordeal, talking about very large hail there in what looks like another banana. We saw one on the video the other day. It looks like they're bringing it back again here on the map. As we go into tomorrow's outlook here, you can see we do have two primary slight risk areas for severe weather, one out here in the high plains and the other one out here in the mid-Atlantic and into portions of the northeast, and we could be talking about severe weather there. A little bit of severe weather possible in between, and I actually think we could be seeing severe weather way outside of this risk area as well, off to the north here and then off to the south as well. We could have our marginal risk substantially expanded tomorrow. We'll go into that a little bit later on in the video. But we do have a little bit of a tornado risk here for Kansas. Again, very marginal in nature. I'm not talking about all that much. Wind risk, again, not really talking about much there either. We're not even seeing a significant wind risk yet. That could change maybe out in these areas here, but we'll have to wait and see. And then our hail risk is mainly centered over your high plains like it normally would be at this time of year. Moving on into our day 3 risk, we still have more activity out here in portions of our southern high plains, but out here in your mid-Atlantic and northeast, it remains very active. That will be, again, on your edge of your ring of fire pattern. Where I'm at, I'm currently in the fire, so I'm not really seeing any storms here, but if you're riding on the outside of the ring, you're going to see a lot of stormy weather. That's typically how it goes. And as this ring of fire continues to break down a little bit more and shift around, storm chances will continue to increase, and we'll look at that on our long-range outlook later in the video. As we go ahead and take a look at what our future radar might be looking like later on this afternoon into this evening, we're talking about storms already firing off here, maybe even a couple of supercells as well. I'm kind of watching out for that in Iowa, but you can see generally some isolated cells forming around 4 to 6 p.m. this evening. A little something down there in Kansas as well, if you all were interested in that. As we continue on throughout the afternoon into the evening, look at that storm near Omaha, Nebraska there. We have some storms north of Chicago. We're going to have to wait and see if things shift around a bit and Chicago does get a direct hit. And it looks like anyway they probably will around 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. tonight. So that's something to watch out for there. A lot of storms going on out here in Iowa and Nebraska near Storm Lake. Why in the world did they give that lake that particular name? That's kind of funny if you ask me. I wonder, maybe it was a meteorologist that did that. I would like to believe so in my own world anyway. And then you can see a lot more thunderstorm activity rumbling on throughout the night. As we take a look at our southern risk area, and I wanted to point this out here because we do have a very real microburst potential that could set up down here. We're talking about some pretty explosive thunderstorm development around 2 to 4 p.m. this afternoon, and even some further thunderstorm development here as we go into our Appalachian Mountains here. And any storms that do come off of these mountains could contain strong to potentially even damaging winds. So we're going to really have to watch out for that. And torrential rainfall as well. If you see storms training over a same area, we could have some flash flooding concerns. So that is definitely something to put on your radar, no pun intended. And definitely severe thunderstorms erupting out here in Middle Tennessee. Look at all those pink colors on your screen there, some intense cores there. Could even be talking about some hail evident in those areas. And I'm honestly quite shocked we do not have a slight risk for severe weather out there just yet. Now going into tomorrow, into our 4th of July forecast here for our northern risk area, actually our whole risk area. There's going to be a lot to talk about here, but we're seeing storms absolutely everywhere. Look at this cluster down here, St. Louis, Missouri right there. That could be interesting. Some storms up here in the northeast, but I want to go more into your peak heating here, and we're going to go ahead and circle in a lot of areas here. You can see we have a storm cluster up here, portions of Duluth, Minneapolis. We have some supercells down here in Nebraska, probably going to have a photogenic tornado. Those storms out there like to do some crazy stuff, and you tend to get some magical things happening there. We see some more storms down here near Kansas City that could be severe. We have some even more storms up through this area right here. Storms in the northeast. Nice cluster there blitzing through Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania there as we head into around 2 to 6 p.m. tomorrow afternoon into the evening. Another storm cluster down there in the portions of the Delmarva / Mid-Atlantic regions. More storms even further off to the south in your Appalachia region into your Ohio Valley, and even some stuff down here, even some stuff down here. How many circles are on my screen? That is outrageous. We have storms going up everywhere tomorrow. Oh my gosh. I mean, come on. 4th of July's festivities are probably going to be rained out for a lot of people, which is highly, highly unfortunate. And those storms continue to intensify and continue to expand in coverage. Look at all that activity. That is a sloppy mess out there. We're going to go ahead and take you all on a zoomed out look here for your fireworks forecast. What is it looking like here? Not that great. Unfortunately, a lot of places are going to get rained out. We're talking some rain near Minneapolis up here. Chicago, you could have some thunderstorms. Indianapolis could be a total rain out, unfortunately, there. Pittsburgh, you could have some thunderstorms rolling in a second round, believe it or not, rolling into the overnight hours. So fireworks shows over there might be a little bit delayed or maybe even a bit canceled. As we look at New York City, unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of rain. Boston as well. Washington, D.C., unfortunately, some rain moving in. A lot of well-known areas for fireworks could unfortunately get rained out. So that's honestly some really terrible news there. Nashville as well. My goodness, I mean, these storms are really targeting all the big cities, aren't they? It sure seems like it, at least. You could see more storm activity throughout the night. Even going in at 2 a.m., you could still be talking about thunderstorms, though I really hope at that point you're still not blowing off fireworks, waking everyone up, because that would be pretty inconsiderate of you all. Yeah, that wouldn't be so great. And our core reason for all of our storms is just the sheer amount of moisture, not sheer, but our amount of moisture in our atmosphere here. We're talking about dew points in the 70s for a lot of different areas here. As you can see in your purple and your lavender colors, those areas will be very favorable for thunderstorm development should conditions become ripe enough. And yeah, it's also going to feel very miserable on top of that. You're going to be having a lot of extreme heat and a lot of really humid conditions. I mean, it's going to feel like a hot tub, if not even worse than a hot tub out there. And you can clearly see that based off your storm energy here. We have between 3,000 to 4,000 Cape, even some areas getting upwards of 5,000. So it's going to be very unstable out there. Some very favorable conditions, and especially out in these areas too, I'd kind of like to note definitely some elevated values here. So maybe that could be a bigger area for severe weather and a little bit more of a concerning spot to watch out for. And this storm energy continues to linger on throughout the night. Even 4 a.m., we're still talking 1,000 to 2,000 Cape. So certainly is going to be talking about a lot of storm activity late in the night. And speaking of the heat, it's going to get unbearable out there quickly. We're taking a look at our heat index values from our HRRR model. And boy, oh boy, here, you're looking at your identifier tool. We're looking at heat indices upwards of 110 to near 115 degrees out there for your Delmarva area, your Mid-Atlantic regions. New York City, look at that, 108. Washington, D.C., 113. Yeah, it's gonna feel awful out there. And I mean, even across the central part of the country as well, we're looking at heat indices closing in on 110 in some areas being possible. So you all need to stay very safe out there. And that also leads me to this as well. Look at in around the Pittsburgh area, we're talking about heat indices around 100 to 105 degrees. So if you're out and about tomorrow or even over the next few days over the weekend outside wearing any heavy clothing at all, well, you need to drink plenty of water and limit your outdoor exposure and take frequent breaks, because it is going to feel absolutely awful outside, and depending on your situation, it may even be a bit deadly as well. So just kind of take this a little bit seriously out there if you wish. And then some thunderstorms could wash out some of those crazy heat values there, but that's not until the next day. Then your heat is right back at it again, still talking about 110 to near 115 degree heat indices along your Delmarva to mid-Atlantic regions. It's going to feel hostile out there. And then again, look it up here. Again, 100 degree heat indices up there in some of those areas. And then again, your central part of your country here, 105. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to feel absolutely brutal. And you all are used to the heat, though, which is some good news. This isn't Europe, so you all do, of course, have air conditioning. I'm glad that I certainly do. I didn't really have that at work yesterday, and that was kind of miserable towards the end of it. And you also have a lot of ways to cool off out here as well, which is some really good news. And I really encourage you to utilize those to the best of your ability today, tomorrow, and even the next few days after that. With our European model, you can see a bit of a reprieve from the heat will come potentially going into Monday and Tuesday next week, where heat indices could drop into your low to mid 90s. A lot better than it has been, but oh, look down here, could still be pretty elevated across your Charleston area there in South Carolina, getting upwards of around 110 for your heat indexes. And I took my time yesterday to find this really awesome graphic here from the National Weather Service that goes into great detail about just how serious heat could be. You can see here, they mentioned heat exhaustion and all the, issues that come with that. So that is certainly something you should all read over. And then, of course, what happens if you start feeling like you're exhausted from the heat. And this could also lead to heat stroke, which is a lot more serious in nature. And of course, I'm not going to read all this out because it is a lot of information, but here's kind of what you need to know, what you could expect if heat stroke is coming on, and then the very important steps you need to take if it becomes too serious right over there. And over the next few days, over the next week, we're expecting a lot of thunderstorm activity, especially as your ring of fire pattern breaks down. But the European model does have a bit of a bias towards mesoscale convective systems, so we'll kind of ignore that a bit. But what you need to know is daily thunderstorm activity here for a very large area. And that really just continues on through. Look at that. Look at how intense some of those storms are there in your yellow, orange, and red colors there, especially in your mountains. So certainly is going to be very hot, very stormy out there, which could really interrupt some of your plans. I mean, your plans are getting interrupted now because of your extreme heat, but then they're going to get interrupted even more due to your storm chances. So it is a lose-lose situation, unfortunately, and that's very unfortunate for a lot of you all. And again, storm chances will just kind of continue. It's going to feel very tropical out there, very summer-like, because it is summer. I mean, basically that. But now, I'm not sure if you saw the thumbnail. I'm assuming you all did, but we have to talk about a much more serious topic here. We have a super typhoon getting ready to unleash its fury in the western Pacific here. So as we kind of look through at this, the name's Bavi, and this thing is going to explode into a terrifying monster as it moves off to the west. And this is expected to become a Category 5, and probably almost already is. I know from what I was looking at before, it's a Category 4, but this thing is rapidly intensifying and is going to get very close to Guam here in Saipan. So this is looking very significant, 916 millibars near Guam. That would be a Category 5 monster there, and this could definitely bring very, very dangerous to even perhaps deadly impacts to the islands there, the Mariana Islands to be more specific. And after that, this thing will increase its wind field, and our pressure is going to tank substantially. Look at this. We're talking about pressures going well below 900 millibars, and it bottoms out here on our European model at 879 millibars. That is rivaling a super typhoon tip from probably, I think, over a decade ago, I do believe, and it actually is lower and even more intense than major Hurricane Melissa that struck the Atlantic last year. So this thing is really something you do not want to be messing around with, and this is going to continue to move on off to the west, carving quite a footprint in its wake here. And look at this, it continues speeding off and is a direct strike to Taipei there in Taiwan. So let's really hope that the European model doesn't come to fruition, because this would be a Category 5 major impact to a major city. That would not be good news at all. And then this thing will continue to blast off into China there, bringing very dangerous impacts as probably a Category 3 to even a Category 4 4 super typhoon. Do not mess around with this system. It will be a deadly situation. Our rainfall here, we're expecting a ton of it across the board here. Take a look at Guam here. We're expecting about a foot of rain, maybe even closer to 15 inches in some areas. And then as this thing moves on off towards Taiwan, your mountains here are going to cause a lot of issues. We're talking with your identifier tool in and around 2 to potentially even 4 feet of rain. Holy cow. I mean, this model doesn't show it too well because it's low resolution, but we're expecting substantial impacts for portions of Taiwan, especially in your mountains. If you live in the mountains, I would definitely start getting prepared immediately. Definitely don't evacuate yet because we don't exactly know where this is going. But if in a few days models continue to hone in on your area, yeah, you should definitely evacuate because the amount of landslides, mudslides, rock slides, debris flows, all the sort out there is potentially going to be upwards of an unsurvivable level. So you definitely should take it seriously. Into our GFS model here to kind of give some better insight, you can see this thing wreaking havoc as it moves through Saipan there of around 915 millibars. Again, that's in great agreement with the European model. And again, very monstrous. Category 5, Super Typhoon. This blitzes right through Taiwan there. Look at that, 942 millibars, so Super Typhoon still occurring there. And this thing absolutely strikes China there as, again, probably still a Super Typhoon, 953 millibars. I mean, this thing is still very intense in nature. Rainfall impacts. Rainfall is going to, again, be a very serious concern with this system. We're talking upwards of around 18, maybe even 20 inches for Saipan there, and even going further off south of the Mariana Islands. And then as this thing moves into Taiwan there, look at your rain. We're talking, this is explicitly nearly showing 3 feet of rain. So I would expect totals quite a bit higher than this. With your high resolution models, wouldn't even be shocked if we see a 5-foot plot out there for some random location. So I don't know about you, 5 feet of rain is just absolutely crippling. That is not good news. And that is quite the footprint there left behind the system here. Look at this. You can clearly see where the track of this thing is with your rainfall map. Your winds are going to be very serious out here. These are your wind gusts, and they're heavily underestimated because this is your GFS model. 137 there, 144 miles an hour for Saipan. That is some very significant winds. And as this moves off towards Taiwan there, I mean, your whole entire area is just shaded in gold. That is never a good sign. And again, over 100-mile-an-hour winds are going to be likely out of that system. As we take a look at Bavi from our more realistic models here, our hurricane models, our HWRF model shows the following. It shows a direct strike on Taiwan there at 926 millibars, a very intense eye wall right here. And that is going to be bringing, again, catastrophic impacts to that island if it is quite this strong, and it definitely could be. And this thing will bottom out significantly here. It actually shows this thing going down to 895 millibars. That is a very rare occurrence on our HWRF model, and I've only seen it twice, and that was with Major Hurricane Milton and Major Hurricane Melissa. So this is definitely a beast you should not be messing around with, and it actually kind of glitches out your map a little bit here because of how strong it is. As we take a look at your HAV-ZE model, because we also have that output as well, there is a little bit of a limiting factor on your peak intensity, and I'm going to go over that here. Again, shows a near direct strike on Saipan there, 918 millibars at the category 5, but look at all of your concentric eye walls here, and this could definitely limit its intensity. If we do see multiple eye walls here and failed eye wall replacement cycles, we probably won't be seeing anything below 900 millibars out of the system. Does it matter? No, because you're still seeing catastrophic impacts regardless, but that could definitely limit this from becoming one of the strongest, if not the strongest typhoons in recorded history. So that is, I guess, a little bit of good news, if you call it good news, because again, the rainfall is going to be a big story. Your winds, I mean, it's not going to matter much in the long scheme of things, unfortunately. And then with your winds here, very substantial winds. You can look at your max winds right up here. I hope my overlay, I hope the way I have this scene oriented is not blocking that off at all. It might be. But if you can see that up there, you can kind of track it through time. We're talking about winds. Again, look at how your eye wall replacement cycle kind of damages your system here. Something to watch. 141 knots I saw up there. There was a model run earlier showing 167 knots, around 190 miles an hour, which I think is actually becoming a little bit more likely at the moment. And with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, even though I had to re-record the whole entire thing a second time because one of my overlays messed up and my webcam just disappeared out of thin air. I love it when that happens, right? But I'm glad I was able to keep some of the enthusiasm going in this video, even though deep down inside I want to kind of be done with it, to be honest. That said, if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community, share this video with friends, family on social media, even feel free to leave a comment in the section below. But with that being said, have a wonderful afternoon and evening and night, everyone, and I'll see you back here very, very soon.